Before we get into the show, there is a way that you can help support the show. A very easy way, in fact.
If you go to our website, eatlunchandboardgame.com, click on the Get the Games tab. There we have affiliate links to many of the games and books we have talked about. If you're interested in purchasing any, by clicking on the link, a small portion of your purchase will go to us.
But we promise to use the money wisely by buying more games to review.
We take our jobs very seriously.
Now on with this great episode.
A few weeks ago, I had professor and author Marco Arnotto on the show. We talked about his amazing book, The Tabletop Revolution. One of the many games that I have bought because of this book was A Universal Truth. It was in the card game section of the book. Marco talked about how cards have evolved from their rudimentary beginnings as just a suit and a number to multi-use, multifunctional components. He mentioned A Universal Truth, the strategic game of courtship, designed by Patrick Einherber and self-published by Danger Toad Games via the Game Crafter. What drew me to this game truly was Marco talking about how Patrick used every inch, every side, every bit of the card to move the game forward. As happened many times while I was reading Tabletop Revolution, I put my copy down, picked up my phone, and immediately did some digging into A Universal Truth. I reached out to the designer who graciously mailed me a copy. When it arrived, Edward and I carefully tore into it. In A Universal Truth, you and your coworkers are trying to woo your loved one. To do this, you must meet or exceed all of their requirements of affection, social amity, accomplishments, and of course, money. That is just the basic version of the game. I'll explain more later in the episode. So, put on your ascot and monocle, gather your coworkers, and see who can court their love first in A Universal Truth. Alright, welcome back to Eat Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins. And now let's take a look at the rule clarity for A Universal Truth. Do not be discouraged by the amount of pages, which is 28, and the small font. A Universal Truth has a fantastic rulebook. The first 11 pages get you started, and a lot of that is filled with pictures and diagrams. The last 17 pages are all the additional modules, additional add-ons to the game. Amazing! Time to explain to newcomers. To explain just the standard game, as I will go through in a minute, will take about 15 minutes. More time is spent on how the cards work than anything else. The mechanics are simple, it is how to use them strategically that takes the time. Gameplay. To set up, deal a card face up to each player. This is the character that they are trying to court. You may re-deal if a player desires a specific gender, but whatever. Notice under the portrait lists all the requirements for this character's love and devotion. Next, deal 2 cards off to the left of the central love interest. These will be that player's starting accomplishments. Make sure they are different. If they match, discard 1 and deal a new one. Next, set up the rondel of cards. Deal out 10 cards face up in a circle. Place a pawn for each player into the rondel as one space. So for example, in a 3-player game, there will be 13 slots. Next, roll the dice as needed per the player count listed in the rules. Decide on the first player and deal each player 3 cards to their hand. On a turn, the active player has 2 options. Play a card from hand or use a die to pick a new card. Let's look at playing a card. But before we do that, let's look back at that central love interest card requirements. Each character has a set of 4 requirements: accomplishments, social amity, affection, and money. The accomplishments are either a pair or a trio of matching activities of a specified color. For instance, it could be 2 green and 2 red, or 3 blue, or 2 yellow and 3 wild. The social amity shows how many friends of each gender must be had. Affection is how many heart icons must be played below the center card, counting the one on the object of affection if it's there. Lastly, the dowry requirement. This is the amount of money one must make in order to win the hand of their loved one. Okay, back to playing a card. As I just told you, there are 4 things needed to win the heart of your loved one. And there just happens to be 4 sides to a card. Play a card for one of these requirements by tucking it on that side of the card. The right for social amity, the bottom for affection, the top for money, or off to the left for accomplishments. If you don't have a card you wish to play or don't have a card at all, you can do a die action. Simply select a die from the pool, move your pawn that many spaces clockwise, not counting other pawns. Pick up that card you landed on, replacing it with your pawn, and flip out a new card from the deck to your vacated space. If there are no dice left and a player wants to use a die roll, a reroll occurs. However, before the dice are re-rolled, all players, all, not just the active, all must discard down to 3 cards. Therefore, hand management is important. After the re-roll, the active player may select a die and move as I just described. Play continues until a player successfully attracts their lover they have been pursuing the whole game. That is the basics of a universal truth. You will notice, however, on the card there are lots more symbols and text. That is because there are 6 additional modules that can be added to the game to make it more strategic and or complex. It is recommended to add these in order and after playing the base game a few times. First up is the social climbing module. Each card has a number on the right edge. When placing cards for social amity, each successive card must be higher than its predecessor. There are 216 cards in the deck, so beware as this could get hard to do early. This is where the split anger icon comes in. It acts as a reset, but takes up a space, adding no new friends. Next, the events module adds another way to play a card. Instead of playing it to the tableau of cards, you can play it for its event listed at the top of the picture. There are 12 different events. They allow abilities like moving your pawn, taking cards from the rondel, or moving cards around. The third module is one of my favorite and most complicated. Thank goodness there are player sheets to assist. It is the propriety module. In this one, the first additional heart cannot be played for affection until one of the other requirements has been met. The second after the second, the third after the third. Any after 3 can be placed without restriction. The action icons add all the additional icons in the bottom of the card. There are 4 other icons. With this module, cards cannot be played directly into the tableau in front. A card must be discarded. A star card for accomplishments, a pound for money, dialogue bubbles for social, exclamation for reroll, and a heart for a heart. This makes getting affection hard, which is very reminiscent of real life. Next, the business opportunities module requires that you are also using the previous module action icons. In order to place a card for the monetary value, the card being discarded for the icon must have a higher monetary value. This one does get a bit complicated. Lastly, accomplishments makes use of all the symbols on the left side of the card. It also adds variable player powers based on the accomplishments collected. Once an accomplishment has 2 matching cards, the special ability of that accomplishment may be used by that player. There are 36 different accomplishments, and no, I'm not going to go through them all. These special actions could let you use dice differently, rearrange the cards in the rondel, or use other players' accomplishments, among many more. This is why you're only allowed to be pursuing 3 accomplishments at a time. Again, this adds more strategy to the game. There is just so much to explore in a universal truth. Replayability. I have only played it a few times, and I have yet to experience the game in its full glory. Edward and I have been trying to fit this game in while playing other games too, because 6 modules await, and we can't wait. Component quality. A universal truth was manufactured by the Game Crafter out of Wisconsin. The box is sturdy, the cards are fine, the dice and pawns are standard, nothing to complain about. If a larger publisher were to pick it up, I could see a box organizer being added for little cost and making for a better setup and breakdown. Lunchtime potential. This would be a great game for 2 or 3 players to play at lunch. A Universal Truth can handle up to 5, but that would drive the game well over the 60-minute mark. Artwork. The artwork fits the theme of Jane Austen, Downton Abbey perfectly. I asked the designer how he created it. He said he found royalty-free images from the time period and then ran them through a filter so they all looked the same. It is a cost-effective way to do it, and it looks great. The graphic design by Adele Poirier really makes this game sing. Making sure everything lines up where it needs to, sticks out from everything else, and is easily readable must have been a challenge. Now, all of the required bits are readable. The names of the people on the cards, they are not. But this does not detract from the gameplay, it's just a bit frustrating. Expansions and other. At this time, there are no other or expansions for this game. I think it would be hard to add to this game without throwing off its balance. You would have to add a completely new mechanic and a component to the game. And why? Bang for the buck. Right now, the game is listed on the Game Crafter for $74.99. That is a bit steep, I will admit. However, I love that the game has 6 modules that you can keep adding to it. It keeps you wanting to come back to it again and again. I showed this game to my cousin. She was a bit hesitant at first. By the time it was over, she was ready to play it again. I believe you will get your money's worth out of the game. Summary. A Universal Truth is a fairly unknown game, and that is a shame. Part of my hope here is that you will be curious and seek it out. It currently stands tall with a 7.9 on BGG, but with less than 25 ratings. The weight is listed at 3, but I think that might be a bit heavy. It is definitely more than 2 though, but not quite 3. Unfortunately, you can only go in full integers. I hope that as more and more people find out about Patrick Einberger's terrific game of courtship, it will work its way to a proper weight. There is just so much to explore with these cards that I find myself wanting to play a lot more often than I can. I need to teach more people how to play so I can get more games in. I implore you, once again, to get a copy of the Tabletop Revolution by Marco Ornato and find your next few Obsession games. So far, he hasn't missed. A Universal Truth is a fantastic game of strategic courtship. As usual, you can reach out to me on Facebook at facebook.com/eatlunchandboardgame. Hit me up on my website, eatlunchandboardgame.com. Leave a suggestion of what game Edward and I should try next. And you can always email us at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And remember, board games build bridges. When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.